So it's been requested that I do a video on actually reloading my 243. So one of the first things I do is I will pull some 243 out of the prepped brass that I have. And when I say it's prepped, it's already been cleaned. The primer pockets have been cleaned out, trimmed to length, chamfered and deburred in the mouth. And at this point, they're ready to be primed, powder, and bullet. So one of the first things I do here is I check the head stamps to make sure they're all federal, and then I check the little primer hole there and make sure that none of the tumbling media has been stuck inside of them. Another important detail that I look for is in my brass prep, I try and trim and chamfer and deburr everything. So I want to make sure that all these case mouths have a nice shiny ring around them. That tells me that I have chamfered and deburred them. And all 8 of these cases that I have out right here, they all match, and they should all produce really similar results. What I've got going on is 8 pieces of brass here that are ready to be primed. For these pieces of brass, I'm going to use my standard BR2 primers, not the Magnums for these loads, and we'll see how that does. Now, I'm not claiming this is the only way or the best way to prime your brass, but I do know that this works for me. So these Lee presses just have the little primer right there. And then you got your shell holder, which clicks right in there. So it holds your shell. Before I go to prime any of my brass, I be sure to spin it around in my fingers, really inspecting the neck. And then I spin it again one more time, checking the case of it to ensure that there's no cracks. And then I'll take a look in here, make sure there's nothing in the flash hole and that the primer pocket is ready for a primer. So we'll drop our press, throw a piece of brass in there, run it back up. I just pick up my primers with my hands. I lay as many as I need out right here on my steel, and then we'll drop it in the little cup. Now, I just use my 4 fingers and my thumb. I don't even hold it from the top of the lever, and then just give it a good little squeeze. I can feel it go into the primer pocket, and then just give it just a little squeeze once I feel it stop. So there's the first one done. Always check and make sure that they're seated in there. This one's definitely set down in a couple thousandths, and that's all there is to priming these brass. So I'm going to do that and skip ahead. One thing to note, I feel it's very important that you check your brass for cracks and whatnot, even before you prime, like I do. And you just definitely don't want to fire off a piece of brass that has a crack in it already. That's going to give you one hell of a messed up day. So just do your own quality control and ensure that you don't blow your face off. So what we're going to be reloading tonight is some 243 Winchester. And we're going to be loading up some 70 grain Sierra Blitzkings. These will be a great varmint round. They're a good light bullet for the 243. Kind of a middle ground. You can get down to 55 grain if you really want to push some crazy velocities. But I found these on sale and I'm going to work with these for now. The 2 powders that I have available to me are Reloader 15 and Hodgdon Varget that also work with these bullets. So I went through a bunch of load data manuals and found all the 70 grain bullets that I could. And I made these lists. So here's Varget and Reloader 15. Here's all the max charges for them. Note that these are my interpretations and don't be copying this data. Be sure to look it up for yourself. So how I pick a charge is I'm actually going to go through these and I'm going to find a charge that does not exceed the max of any of these different load data manuals. And what I ended up coming up with, I wrote down on this separate card with all the load data info. So I'm using a Federal case, CCI BR2 primer, 70 grain Blitzking. I'm going to go with the 2.610 overall length. And for the powder, I'm going to do 4 rounds of each of these charges. I'm going to do 40 grains of Varget and 41 grains. So I'm going to do 1 grain jump there. And then with Reloader 15, I'm going to start lower with 39 grains, then jump up to 40 grains. If I look back on these, none of those charges exceed any of these maxes listed, and we should be good to go from there. Now, normally if I was going to load bulk ammo, what I would use to weigh my powder is my Lee Perfect Powder Measure here, where I usually just tilt it down, flick it back up, and then it dumps out whatever charge you set that little screw to. I'm just going to be hand scooping it out of that container because it's convenient to scoop it out of there instead of that awkwardly sized Reloader 15 bottle. So I'm going to take the little powder dipper I've got that came with my Lee dies, and we're going to be doing some hand weighing tonight. So fill this guy up. Let's see, that ended up weighing 38.3. Reloader 15, our first charge we wanted to go with, was 39 grains. And that's what we're working with, is Reloader 15. Varmint will come after this. These Frankfurt Arsenal scales aren't the best in the world, but I've managed to get some decent results with it. 39 grains right on the nose. That's what our first charge is calling for. So let's take this little funnel. It's also a Lee, and I've never had any static issues with this thing. I know a lot of people complain about that, but it has not bothered me at all. So just dump it in fairly slow because it is neck down to 22 caliber. Now here's the important part. Once you fill up a case, move it to the next case and let it sit there so that once you weigh out your next charge, you know where you're going. Just going to repeat this process a bunch of times, and then we'll go ahead and skip to seating the bullet.
Now, I'm not real impressed with that case fill. It's pretty low with the Reloader 15. The 39 grains is on the left. And then I filled one case with 40. And it's down below the shoulder line. So, curious to see if that affects the results I get with the Reloader 15. But those are all safe charges. I don't think I can actually go much higher than that without starting to exceed some of the maxes listed. So, we're going to start here, see where that leaves us. It's going to be a real quick look at the Varmint case fill level. As you can see in there, not too bad with case fill. The ones on the left, I'm trying to get good lighting here. The ones on the left were 40 grains. One on the right here is 41 grains. So let's go ahead and get an overall length set up. So I'm going to back my seating die out way farther than it needs to go. A AMAX round, 87 grain AMAX that I've loaded to 2.640. I'm actually going to set my seating die down to there. And then I will twist the adjuster down till it touches that bullet. And then I only have a few more thousandths to go. It'll get me in the area, but I will still have to creep down just because I don't have a pre-existing round set up just yet. So now before I put a bullet in here, I'm going to angle the case so I can see that there's definitely a powder charge in there, because I do not want to have a squib in a rifle and shoot it with another bullet. So we're going to take one of our little Sierra Blitzkings here. These do have a tiny little boat tail on them, so that'll help them with the seating die. Also, the case being chamfered into bird, they should slide right in there. So we're going to seat them down and then grab my calipers and we'll see where they're at. They're definitely going to be long, but that's where they're starting out. So they almost match that 87 grain, which is 2.643 is what it came out to. That 87 grain was 2.640. Now what we're going for is 2.610. So I've got 3 dots marked on here, and it's basically 1/3 of a turn, and I'm gonna go pretty much a half turn on this guy, back up in there and measure it again. You can even give it a quarter turn and seat it again to make sure your bullet is as center as possible with these less expensive seating dies. And that's leaving us at 2.615. So just gonna touch this thing and barely move it to bring it down that last 5 thousandths. You can't even feel the bullet move when you do that small of an increment. 2.61. Do this one more time. I just like to creep up on it. I don't want to try and make a major jump and see where I land because I don't have a bullet puller. So that's 2.609, which is totally acceptable. It's in 1/1000th of our goal here. Like I say, we're going for 2.610, and it's time to seat a few more of these. So we'll set that back in the reloading tray. Checking for powder fill. Slide this guy into the shell holder. Move my bullets over where they need to be. And drop a Blitzking in it. And like I say, I wasn't even really planning on making a varmint round for my 243. I just came across a kick-ass deal on these bullets. They were marked $29.99, and I picked them up for $15. So they were getting closed out. 70 grain Blitzkings. Figured these would be awesome for a coyote round, or bunny round, or gopher round, whatever I decide to point my gun at. So 2.6 we're at 1.0, right on the nose, even with that polymer tip. Let's go ahead and seed the rest of these. Again, checking for powder and seeding it. That's just my die squeaking a little bit. Need to add some oil to it. I do check my overall lengths on all of the first rounds I do with ammo. Now it's time to label these. Now I am going to put the card in with them, but as insurance I'm going to go ahead and write an RL for Reloader 15 and 39 grains on these ones. So RL with a big 39 next to it. So that's big bold writing, and it's kind of hard to write on a round case, but that's the idea. I will write 39 on all of these, and then I'll write 40 on the next charge, and then of course with Varmint I just put a V in whatever grains that I'm putting in that bullet.
And here we have our completed rounds. These are ready to be taken out into the desert and shot for groups like I usually do. As you can see, got my reloader with 40 grains hanging out over here. My Varmint rounds I'll make up later. Reloader with 39 grains. And then I've got this little list that I throw in my ammo carrier, and this is going to give me all the details of what's going on so I don't forget any of the details while I'm out there. And I know what I'm shooting, and I know when to look out for pressure and whatnot. So these are going to be my 70 grain rounds, and I expect these to shoot really well out of the Tikka because of the 1-10 twist barrel. These are really light bullets, and I don't think any 243 would have a problem stabilizing these. It'll be interesting to see if I can get these Sierra bullets to group well. So far, I've only tried the Sierra 95 TMKs out of it, and wasn't able to stabilize them, but I suspect that these will do awesome. And I also suspect that those AMAXs, the 87 grains, will do awesome. I've yet to shoot them. I've yet to shoot these, so these videos will be going out soon. If you didn't know, these are part of the Quest for Precision series, and then these are going to be my 243 Varmint series. So appreciate you guys watching. That's my reloading process when I'm coming up with a new charge for a new bullet, and we'll go see how they shoot. Subscribe, follow along, and check out my next video. We'll talk to you later.